Across the galactic communication grid, a single signal echoed again and again. It was not a diplomatic request, not a routine broadcast, but a sharp and desperate cry. The words were broken, distorted by interference, yet the meaning was unmistakable. Help us. Please, anyone. On dozens of worlds, alien leaders listened in silence. The colony that sent the call was far away, resting on the quiet edge of known space. No empire had ever considered it important. It was a small settlement, home to a species not known for strength or military power. For centuries it had remained unnoticed. Now its distress call spread fear through every capital. Ships scanned the signal and tried to identify the enemy. But the reports held nothing clear. There was no mention of raiders, no sign of a rival empire. Only one detail repeated again and again in the fragmented message. It is consuming us. That single phrase was enough to paralyze the galaxy. On Earth, the signal arrived just like it had everywhere else. But the human response was different. In a darkened room filled with officers and analysts, the transmission played over and over. The voices were weak, trembling with terror, yet still pleading. Captain Elias Cade leaned forward in his chair. He had fought in more than one war and had seen his share of false alarms. But there was something in this message that felt different, something real. They're dying out there, Elias said firmly, and no one else is moving. Across the table, diplomats shifted uncomfortably. They knew what he meant. Reports already showed that most civilizations would not intervene. Some were afraid. Others argued that the colony was too far, the risk too great, or the cause too uncertain. And in truth, humanity itself had no obligation. These were not human lives at stake, but Earth was not a quiet planet. Humanity had been shaped by storms, predators, and disasters. Survival had never been easy, and history had taught them one lesson again and again. When a call for help comes, someone must answer it. Admiral Chen, an older woman with silver hair, finally broke the silence. How long until we can mobilize? 3 days, Elias replied at once. We can ready the fleet in 3 days. The room grew still again. Then the Admiral nodded. Then we move. The order spread quickly. Shipyards lit up with activity. Engineers rushed to prepare cruisers and carriers. Supply officers worked through the night, filling holds with fuel and medical gear. Across Earth and its colonies, the call went out for volunteers. Thousands stepped forward without hesitation. Pilots, soldiers, scientists, and even civilian specialists. To outsiders, it looked reckless. Why risk so much for a distant colony of strangers? But to the humans, the answer was simple, because no one else would. News traveled fast across the stars. Alien governments watched in disbelief as the Deathworlders, as they were often called, began gathering their fleet. Some whispered that humans were arrogant, always hungry for adventure. Others warned that this mission would end in disaster, with the humans crushed and humiliated. And yet not all reactions were filled with doubt. On a quiet moon orbiting a trade hub, a young alien technician listened to the human broadcast and felt a flicker of hope. On another world, a retired captain of a peaceful race remembered human aid during an old disaster and wondered if maybe, just maybe, they could succeed again. For now, though, the galaxy stayed still. No other fleet moved. No other empire risked its strength. Only the humans. As the third day ended, the fleet gathered in orbit above Earth. Dozens of warships stood ready, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Carriers opened their bays to reveal lines of fighters. Medical ships floated nearby, their crews preparing for the worst. At the heart of it all stood the flagship Resolute, with Admiral Chen and Captain Elias on the bridge. The Admiral surveyed the gathered fleet. "Remember this," she said to her officers. "We do not go for glory. We do not go for conquest. We go because someone asked for help." The fleet moved in silence. Engines burned bright as ships leapt into faster-than-light travel, one after another. The humans had made their choice. Far away on the colony that had sent the desperate SOS, the people still waited. The skies above them were dark, filled with shadows that blotted out the stars. Their cities had fallen silent. Many feared no help would come. But deep in space, beyond their sight, the Deathworlders' fleet was already on its way. An answer to their outcry, and perhaps the only hope they had left. The human fleet moved across the stars like a wave of steel and fire. Dozens of ships cut through the darkness, their engines glowing as they left the familiar borders of Earth's colonies behind. On every bridge, crews worked with discipline and focus. They knew the mission was dangerous, but not one of them questioned why they were going. A cry for help had been heard, and that was reason enough. Yet outside the human fleet, the galaxy reacted with hesitation. Messages of doubt traveled faster than the ships themselves. Fools, some alien leaders muttered. They will be destroyed before they even reach the colony. Others were sharper in their warnings. This is a trap. No one knows what the danger is. If humanity falls, we will not waste our fleets rescuing them. Still, curiosity spread. Governments that had sworn to stay out of the conflict quietly dispatched observation ships. These vessels did not carry weapons strong enough for battle. They carried recorders, sensors, and diplomats eager to see what the humans would do. On the flagship Resolute, Captain Elias Cade stood at the wide glass view of the stars. His hands were behind his back, his eyes calm but sharp. He knew about the observers. Reports showed at least 6 different alien races shadowing their fleet from a distance. None offered assistance, but none had the courage to stay away completely. Admiral Chen joined him at the window. They watch us like hawks, she said quietly. They expect us to fail, Elias answered. Or they hope we succeed, so they don't have to risk themselves, Chen added with a small frown. Neither officer spoke for a moment. The galaxy was old, filled with empires that valued safety over risk. Humanity was still young compared to them, still reckless in many eyes. But youth had its advantages. Where the older races feared loss, humans carried a stubborn courage that made them impossible to predict. 3 days into the journey, the fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a trade station. The station belonged to the Yaru, a peaceful race known more for farming than for war. The humans had planned to resupply here before pushing further into uncharted territory. As the fleet arrived, the Yaru Council requested a meeting. Admiral Chen, Captain Elias, and several officers entered the council chamber. The Yaru leaders waited with long, delicate features, their eyes uncertain. "We honor your courage," the head counselor began, "but we cannot join you. The danger is unknown. Our fleets are not strong. If we fight, we may lose everything." Admiral Chen listened patiently. "We do not ask you to risk your world," she said. "But you know these colonies better than we do. Their trade routes, their people. Any knowledge may help us." The counselors exchanged nervous glances. For a moment it seemed they would refuse. But then one younger counselor spoke, her voice steady. "We cannot fight, but we can guide. I will give you maps and records of the colony. And I will send a scout ship to watch. If you succeed, we will be ready to help the survivors." It was not the full support humanity had hoped for, but it was something. Humanity had learned long ago that even small allies could matter when the time came. The fleet moved on. In the following days, more encounters followed. The Vakari, a warrior race, sent only a single ship, claiming they wished to measure humanity's bravery. The Lurani, known for their advanced medicine, offered a handful of doctors and supplies but refused to commit soldiers. The cautious Trivans refused entirely, sending only a message: "We will observe from afar." Each meeting was the same. The galaxy's great powers respected the human decision but would not share the risk. Humanity would fight alone, at least at the start. And yet Captain Elias noticed something. Each time they spoke with another race, each time the humans refused to back down, the observers drew a little closer. Their fleets remained in the distance, but not as far as before. Curiosity had turned into quiet admiration, though none would say it aloud. One evening aboard the Resolute, the crew gathered in the mess hall. News of alien hesitation had spread and tension hung heavy. Some younger officers grumbled, angry that no one trusted humanity enough to fight beside them. "They think we're reckless," one pilot muttered. "They want us to be the shield while they hide." Captain Elias stepped into the hall at that moment. His voice cut through the low murmurs. "Let them think what they want," he said firmly. "We do not fight for their approval. We fight because someone out there begged for help and no one else came. That is reason enough. If we succeed, the galaxy will see. If we fail, then we fail trying to do what is right." The hall fell silent. The frustration in the crew's hearts eased, replaced by a steady resolve. As the fleet prepared to leave the trade station behind, Elias looked once more at the star charts. Ahead lay the unguarded frontier where the colony had sent its cry for help. Beyond that, the unknown threat waited. And though the galaxy called them reckless, the humans pressed forward. The reluctant allies trailed behind, still hesitant, still fearful. But deep inside, something was changing. Humanity's determination was planting a seed. The galaxy was watching. And soon, they would see what it meant to stand beside the Deathworlders. The human fleet reached the edge of the unknown sector after weeks of travel. Beyond this point, star charts grew empty, and navigation became difficult. The colony that had sent the SOS was not far, but every moment of silence made the weight heavier on the crews. On the flagship Resolute, Captain Elias stood with Admiral Chen at the central display. A projection of the colony world floated above the table. It showed a once thriving settlement, now dim and unclear. No signals, no greetings, no confirmation of survivors, only a dead silence. Still nothing? Elias asked the communications officer. Nothing, the officer replied. No civilian transmissions. No military codes. Not even automated beacons. The colony should have at least basic signals running. Admiral Chen narrowed her eyes. Then something silenced them. The words settled across the bridge like a shadow. The fleet advanced cautiously. Medical ships held position in the back, while carriers and escorts formed a protective shield around them. The closer they came to the colony, the stranger the readings grew. Energy spikes rippled through the void, faint but irregular, like a heartbeat that did not belong to any machine. At last, the colony came into view. Through the wide glass of the viewing deck, the planet looked beautiful at first glance, a green world with blue oceans covered in forests and rivers. But beauty ended at the surface. Cities lay in ruins, fires burned in great patches across the land. Entire regions looked as though something massive had scraped them clean. Magnify, Elias ordered. The image zoomed in. The ruins of the capital city appeared. Buildings broken like bones, streets cracked and blackened. And then among the wreckage something moved. At first the crew thought it was smoke. But then the shape twisted, expanded, and stretched like living shadow. Great masses of dark, shifting matter slithered across the land. Where it touched, nothing survived. Trees turned gray, rivers dried, and metal structures collapsed as though eaten from within. Gasps filled the bridge. "What is that?" whispered one officer. The science team scrambled to scan the surface. Data streamed in, confusing and incomplete. At last, the chief scientist spoke. "It's alive, and it is everywhere. A hive creature, but not like insects. This thing spreads like a plague. It consumes anything it touches, stone, metal, and living tissue. It rewrites matter into more of itself." "Like a parasite," Elias said. "Worse," the scientist replied. "A parasite needs a host. This thing turns entire worlds into its body." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Across the galaxy, alien observers received the same images. On their distant ships, diplomats and generals whispered in alarm. Many had suspected raiders or hostile fleets. None had expected this. A creature that devoured worlds was beyond any empire's design of war. Admiral Chen remained steady. "Open channels to all ships. Everyone must see this." The broadcast carried through the fleet and out toward the observers. Images of the crawling horror spread across the stars. For the first time, even the most cautious empires understood why the colony's last message had been so desperate. "It is consuming us," the aliens had said. Now the truth was clear. The hive creature noticed them. Sensors lit up as massive shapes began to rise from the ruined cities. At first they seemed like towers of ash. Then the towers moved, reshaping into monstrous forms that glowed with the same strange energy spikes the fleet had detected earlier. "They're building war forms," the science officer reported. "It adapts. It sees us as prey." Dozens of massive shapes lifted into the sky. Some sprouted wings of black matter. Others slithered across the ground, leaving destruction in their wake. The parasite had seen the fleet, and now it was preparing to attack. On the Resolute, the crew waited for orders. Fear gripped many hearts, but no one ran. Humans had faced storms, earthquakes, and predators on their homeworld. They had been called reckless, dangerous, even foolish. But in moments like this, their nature became clear. "Weapons ready," Admiral Chen commanded. Her voice was firm, calm, unshaken. "Target the warforms," Elias added. "Show them that humanity does not back down." The fleet opened fire. Streams of light and fire cut through space. Missiles streaked toward the surface. Cannons roared from cruisers. The parasite shrieked. not with sound but with vibrations across every sensor. Its warforms leapt into the sky, meeting the human attack head-on. The first clash shook the heavens. Parasite warforms slammed into fighters, tearing through armor with burning claws. Human pilots answered with precise strikes, blasting holes into the writhing bodies. Yet for every monster destroyed, another rose from the ruins below. On the bridge of the Resolute, Elias gritted his teeth. They're adapting too fast. The science officer's voice was tense. It learns. Every time we hit it, the next form grows tougher. If it has enough time, it will build something our weapons cannot break. Admiral Chen's eyes narrowed. Then we cannot give it time. The battle raged, fire against shadow, steel against hunger. Humanity fought with everything they had, refusing to retreat. For them, it was not only about saving the colony. It was about proving that even against an enemy born to consume, the human spirit would not be devoured. Above the burning planet, the galaxy watched in awe. The terror had been revealed, and humanity was the only force daring enough to face it. The battle above the colony world burned bright. Human ships fired in tight formations, their weapons cutting into the parasite's growing warforms. Explosions lit the sky as fighters weaved between swarms of shadow-like creatures. The parasite adapted quickly, but the humans adapted faster. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Chen stood tall, her gaze fixed on the tactical display. Red marks representing enemy creatures multiplied across the screen. Blue marks, human ships, fought bravely, but their numbers were already thinning. "Report," she ordered. "2 destroyers down," said the officer. 3 fighter squadrons lost. Enemy warforms increasing. Count is over 200. Captain Elias clenched his fists. The parasite was endless. Every time they destroyed one form, the ground below birthed 2 more. Humanity had prepared for many dangers, but not for a living world that rebuilt itself in minutes. "We can't win by firepower alone," Elias said. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. "We have to think differently." The science officer, a young woman named Dr. Hayes, raised her head from the data streams. "The parasite feeds on matter, any matter it touches. But it cannot consume too quickly. It has a rhythm like a heartbeat. If we can disrupt that rhythm, even for a short time, it may collapse parts of its hive." Chen's eyes narrowed. "And how do we do that?" Dr. Hayes hesitated. "By overloading it. Feed it more energy than it can absorb. Overwhelm its system." "That would mean detonating something big," Elias said. "A ship's reactor, maybe more." The crew fell silent. Sacrifice hung in the air, but Admiral Chen broke the tension. "If that is the only way to stop it, then we prepare. But we will not throw away lives carelessly. Find another method to overload it." Meanwhile, the parasite pressed harder. A massive warform, larger than any before, rose from the ruins. Its body stretched like a mountain with wings of burning shadow. The moment it appeared, every ship in the fleet felt its presence through sensors, a pulse of raw, alien hunger. "It's targeting the flagship," Elias realized. The giant warform launched itself upward, faster than seemed possible for its size. Human ships scrambled to intercept. Fighters swarmed it, blasting with everything they had. Explosions tore chunks from its body, but the wounds closed almost instantly, black matter folding back together. "Direct hit ineffective," shouted a pilot over comms. "It's regenerating." On the bridge, Elias slammed his hand against the console. "We need a new plan now, or that thing will tear us apart." The answer came not from a captain or scientist, but from an engineer. Lieutenant Ramos, working in the engine room, sent a message to the command deck. "Captain, Admiral, listen. I've studied the parasite's energy signature. It reacts badly to unstable fields. If we flood it with unbalanced reactor waves, it won't heal properly. It'll tear itself apart from the inside." Chen's eyes lit with hope. "Can we weaponize that?" "Yes, but—" Ramos paused. "We'd have to get close." "Very close," Elias didn't hesitate. "Then we take a strike team in. Use a carrier to get near the surface, plant the overload, and get out before it detonates." Admiral Chen nodded slowly. "Risky, but if it works, it could turn the tide." The order went out. A squadron of ships formed around a carrier loaded with engineers, scientists, and soldiers. Their mission: deliver the unstable reactor core directly into the heart of the hive. As the strike team launched, the fleet tightened its lines to cover them. Every ship fought harder, buying time. Pilots pushed their fighters beyond safety limits. diving into swarms of parasite creatures with unmatched skill. Human adaptability showed itself again. Soldiers jury-rigged weapons mid-battle, engineers rerouted damaged systems, and captains executed daring maneuvers that no computer would approve. The observers from distant alien fleets watched in awe. What they saw was not reckless chaos, but a strange kind of order born from courage and desperation. The strike carrier broke through the atmosphere, descending into the colony's ruined city. Shadows writhed across the ground, reaching upward like claws. The carrier's guns fired non-stop, clearing a path as the team dropped into the heart of the hive. Dr. Hayes, wearing a protective suit, guided the team to a hollow chamber filled with pulsing walls of living matter. The entire structure throbbed with the parasite's energy. "This is it," she said. "The core of the hive." Lieutenant Ramos and his crew set the unstable reactor into place. Warnings flashed as the reactor began to hum, its fields clashing violently with the hive's rhythm. The walls shuddered, dark matter twisting unnaturally. "It's working," Ramos whispered. "But we have to leave now." The team raced back to the carrier. Behind them, the chamber shook violently, light bursting through cracks in the living walls. Above the planet, Admiral Chen and Elias watched as new readings filled the display. The hive's rhythm faltered, its massive war forms shrieking in disarray. The mountain-sized creature that had targeted the flagship convulsed, its body tearing itself apart under the unstable energy. Signal from the strike team. "They're clear." "Then detonate," Chen ordered. The unstable reactor exploded in a blinding flash. The energy rippled across the planet, spreading through the hive's network. Warforms crumbled in midair. The ground itself shook as the parasite recoiled, large portions of its body collapsing into dust. Cheers erupted across the fleet. For the first time in the battle, victory seemed possible, but Admiral Chen raised a hand. "Do not celebrate yet. We heard it, but we did not destroy it. This enemy is not finished. The final strike is still ahead." Captain Elias nodded grimly. "Then we will finish it." Whatever it takes, the tide had turned. Humanity had proven that even against a living nightmare, they could find a way to fight back, and across the stars, the alien observers who once called them reckless now began to whisper another word: indispensable. The blast from the unstable reactor had shaken the entire planet. For the first time since the fleet's arrival, the parasite recoiled in pain. Huge warforms fell apart, their bodies turning to ash before they hit the ground. The hive's rhythm, once steady and unstoppable, now pulsed unevenly. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Elias studied the display. The parasite was wounded but not destroyed. Its core still pulsed deep within the planet. "It's regrouping," Dr. Hayes reported. "The overload tore through its network, but it is already trying to stabilize. If we give it enough time, it will adapt again." Admiral Chen's expression was grim. "Then this battle ends here. We finish it before it recovers." Across the fleet, the order spread: one last strike. Every remaining ship, every pilot, every soldier would throw everything into this final assault. The humans were not alone anymore. Messages began arriving from the observing fleets. The Yaru scout ship that had promised only to watch now transmitted coordinates for weak points in the parasite's spread. The Vicari warship, once there only to measure bravery, moved into formation beside a human cruiser. Even the cautious Trivan sent drones, offering to project shields over damaged human vessels. For the first time, humanity was not fighting alone. Their determination had lit a spark in others. The final plan was simple but dangerous. The fleet would concentrate all firepower on the parasite's core chamber, buried deep beneath the colony's capital. To reach it, they would need to clear the skies and punch through layers of warforms still protecting the surface. "Make no mistake," Admiral Chen told the fleet in a wide transmission. Her voice carried steady and calm. "Many of us may not return, but if we win today, we do not only save this colony. We show the galaxy that this terror can be defeated. Stand firm, fight hard, and know that you do not fight alone." Her words echoed in every ship. Fear was still there, but courage burned brighter. The final assault began. The fleet surged forward, engines roaring. Fighters dove into swarms of parasite creatures, cutting paths through the sky. Cruisers and destroyers fired in coordinated waves, each blast tearing massive holes in the writhing mass. Medical ships stayed close behind, pulling survivors from broken hulls and patching what they could. At the front, the Resolute led the charge. Captain Elias stood on the bridge, giving orders with calm precision. Squadron Beta, dive left, clear the path for the carrier. Cruiser Dawnfire, hold your ground. Cover the Yaru scouts. They're feeding us targeting data. For the first time, human voices mixed with alien ones across the comms. Yaru navigators shouted coordinates. Vakari warriors roared battle cries, and human pilots responded with fierce determination. Different species, different cultures, but now one fight. The parasite struck back with everything it had left. New warforms rose, twisted and monstrous, some larger than ships themselves. They hurled themselves at the fleet with reckless fury, clawing at hulls and tearing into fighters. But the fleet did not break. Every time one ship faltered, another stepped in. A damaged human frigate rammed a warform head-on, buying precious seconds for a squadron to escape. A Yaru scout ship projected its last ounce of shielding to protect a human carrier. Even the cautious Trivans, once silent, directed their drones to sacrifice themselves against incoming swarms. Slowly, painfully, the fleet pushed through. At last, the parasite's core chamber came into view. It was a massive structure, pulsing with dark energy, its surface alive with endless motion. The ground around it had been stripped bare, turned into gray, lifeless dust. "There it is," Dr. Hayes whispered. "The heart of the hive." "All ships," Admiral Chen ordered. "Target the core. Everything we have, now." The sky lit with fire. Missiles, plasma bolts, railgun rounds. Every weapon in the fleet poured down on the core chamber. Explosions ripped across its surface. The hive shrieked in fury, the sound echoing through every sensor, rattling ships to their bones. Still it held. Elias knew it needed more. "Admiral," he said quietly, "let me take the Resolute in closer. If we detonate our full reactor load at point-blank range, it will collapse." Chen turned to him sharply. "That's suicide." "Not if we eject before impact," Elias argued. "We'll draw its attention. The rest of the fleet can finish the strike." The Admiral studied him for a long moment, then gave a slow nod. "Very well. We'll do it together." The Resolute dove toward the core, its engines burning brighter than ever. Parasite warforms swarmed to intercept, but the fleet opened fire to clear the path. Fighters sacrificed themselves. Cruisers blasted gaps in the defenses, and allies shielded the flagship's approach. On the bridge, Elias and Chen stood side by side. The ship shuddered under impact after impact, alarms blaring, consoles sparking. But neither wavered. "Eject sequence ready?" the officer called out. "Now!" Chen ordered. The bridge crew sealed themselves into escape pods, firing into space just as the Resolute made its final run. The great flagship, scarred and burning, plunged directly into the parasite's core. For one instant, silence filled the comms. Then the reactor detonated. Light swallowed the sky. The explosion tore through the hive, ripping apart its core chamber in a storm of fire and unstable energy. Across the planet, warforms convulsed and collapsed into ash. The parasite's rhythm broke completely, shattering into silence. The world was free. When the smoke cleared, the survivors gathered. Human escape pods were retrieved, including those of Admiral Chen, Captain Elias, and their bridge crew. The colony's few remaining citizens emerged from hiding, their eyes filled with gratitude. Across the galaxy, news spread faster than light. The parasite had been defeated, not by retreat, not by debate, but by courage. Humanity had not only answered the SOS, but had led others into victory. In the weeks that followed, something changed. Where once the word Deathworlders carried only fear, now it carried respect. Humanity was seen not as reckless outsiders, but as protectors, those who would stand when no one else dared. Alien leaders who once doubted began reaching out, offering alliances and cooperation. The Yaru called humanity the defenders of the helpless. The Vakari named them war brothers. Even the cautious Trivans admitted, without them, we would all have hidden. Now we have hope. On Earth, the fleet returned battered but unbroken. People cheered their heroes. Families wept with pride. The memory of the Resolute's sacrifice became a story told across every colony. And for the galaxy, the meaning of the SOS had changed forever. What began as an outcry of despair had ended as a call that united worlds. Humanity had forged a new legacy, not just Deathworlders, but the guardians of the stars.